And here's a concept I don't think most people are aware of. When we talk about identity, narrative is not a story that shows up very often. When somebody talks about it was Marilyn Monroe and Norma Ray, have anything to do with identities. A narrative is not just a story about the past. It becomes a filter for the present. It shapes how we interpret our conversations, how we read each other's or people's behavior, and how we react to stress or uncertainty. Over time, these narratives begin to feel like identity. I'm the responsible one. That's part of an identity. And you'll see through this course healings that I've worked through to discover. And I share these things. I'm comfortable sharing them, and I can go into any depth on anything that we'd like to have a conversation about if it resonates even with you. My identity narratives that were showing up was I'm the responsible one, or I'm the outsider, or I'm the one who has to fix things, okay? Or I'm the one who gets overlooked. How did they forget about me? And none of these began as an identity that I chose. They began as experiences that were interpreted and repeated over time, again and again and again. And I just kept telling myself this. And the more I told myself this, the more other people helped remind me that I told myself this, okay? So, and when we see that, something does become possible. We can change them. How we see ourselves, how we interpret others, because me being the responsible one and the outsider, I could see anyone that was a responsible one. I got to connect with other responsible ones, other outsiders. All right. I grew up moving school to school to school as a child. I never went to one school until high school for the whole year. So I was always the outsider. So I knew how to help other people that felt like outsiders be included. All right. So it's how we interpret others. And I don't know that they were outsiders, but I made them outsiders because of my narrative. This also impacts how we respond to challenges in life and what we believe is possible. If you're an outsider, you're never going to belong. You're not going to be on the cheer team. I did make it to Palms, but you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you just don't feel that you'll ever belong. So they quietly become the identity that we perform. Okay? Any questions on that? So when we start looking at narratives, now I'm not going to have you start going to people and start saying, aha, you have this and this and this. Narratives are easier to discover in our environment before we can discover them ourselves. If you've ever heard of the word blind spots, right? How do we see? We don't. So we see in our environment because we are our environment. We exist in our environment and we create our environment, and we are a product of our environment. So there's a good chance of the environment that we're around that there's something somewhere that we're carrying that isn't ours that we picked up. All right. So this isn't about judgment. This is about awareness, because every relationship participates in shaping narrative. And I know sometimes we think we can be separate. Okay. It just is something to take a look at. Some relationships reinforce our limitations, right? And when we can see the narrative environments that we live inside, we begin to understand why certain stories repeat. And we'll be tuning in awareness to environmental narratives. And again, this isn't about finding good guys or bad guys. It's about bringing awareness to a component of reality that often lives in autopilot mode. People being aware of other people's narratives. Oh, here's my story on this. I did an interview on a talk show speaking about how other people, no matter who they are, still have their narratives. The woman who interviewed me, she had 18,000 followers on her talk show on Facebook. And I had an interview there about narratives of influence last year. And as I shared this story, the hosts told me how recently, someone told her to stop calling herself stupid. And she hadn't realized that she was calling herself stupid. She has 18,000 followers. She does a show every single week. And she has a narrative where she was having a conversation with somebody and she said that. She became aware that she said that. So every time she said the word stupid, she was like, wait, that's my show and my jam. I would never use the word I'm stupid. So she got to start to find and see. So knowing doesn't always make the difference, but it's the start. It's the start of it. And we're going to expand our capacity for self-acceptance, reactivity, and discover how to move forward towards what we want with more grace, power, and just understanding how are we, our energy. This is part of our energy work. Okay. How do I feel? Do I feel like when I'm here in this, there's some meetings I have during the day where I'm just like, yeah, rock on. And then there's some that just are limiting. Like when I didn't move the needle far enough with my coach, I'm like, dang it. I got a narrative and I didn't do what I said I was going to do. We all have these thermostats.